Hello, everybody. Welcome to Black Bedtime Stories. Tonight, our story features Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. was born Michael King Jr. January 15, 1929, and he passed April 4th, 1968. He was an American Christian minister and activist who became the most visible spokesperson and leader of the civil rights movement from 1955 until his assassination in 1968. King is best known for advancing civil rights through nonviolence and civil obedience, inspired by his Christian beliefs and the nonviolent activism of Mahatma Gandhi. At his childhood home, King and his two siblings would read aloud biblical scripture as instructed by their father. After dinner, King's grandmother, Jenny, who he affectionately referred to as Mama, would tell lively stories from the Bible to her grandchildren. King became friends with a white boy whose father owned a business across the street from his family's home. In September 1935, when the boys were about 6 years old, they started school. King had to attend a school for black children, Young Street Elementary School, while his close playmate went to a separate school for white children only. Soon afterwards, the parents of the white boy stopped allowing King to play with their son, stating to him, "We are white and you are colored." When King relayed the happenings to his parents, they had a long discussion with him about the history of slavery and racism in America. Upon learning of the hatred, violence, and oppression that black people had faced in the U.S., King would later state that he was determined to hate every white person. His parents instructed him that it was his Christian duty to love everyone. King witnessed his father stand up against segregation and various forms of discrimination. Once stopped by a police officer who referred to King Sr. as boy, King's father responded sharply that King was a boy, but he was a man. When King's father took him into a shoe store in downtown Atlanta, the clerk told them that they needed to sit in the back. King's father refused, stating, "We'll either buy shoes sitting here or we won't buy shoes at all." Before taking King and leaving the store, he told King afterwards, "I don't care how long I have to live in this system, I will never accept it." In 1936, King's father led a group of African Americans in a civil rights march to the City Hall in Atlanta to protest voting rights discriminations. King later remarked that King Sr. was a real father to him. King led the 1955 Montgomery bus boycott and later became the first president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. As president of SCLC, he led an unsuccessful 1962 struggle against segregation in Albany, Georgia, and helped organize the nonviolent 1963 protest in Birmingham, Alabama. King helped organize the 1963 March on Washington, where he delivered his famous "I Have a Dream" speech on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. King was planning a national occupation of Washington, D.C., to be called the Poor People's Campaign when he was assassinated on April 4th in Memphis, Tennessee. His death was followed by riots in many U.S. cities. Allegations that James Earl Ray, the man convicted of killing King, had been framed or acted in concert with government agents persisted for decades after the shooting. Martin Luther King Jr. What do we learn from Martin Luther King Jr.? We learn that we must love everyone. We learn that hatred does not allow us to succeed. We learn that his nonviolent ways allowed him to live in the hearts of many for generations. Martin Luther King Jr., a Black icon.